Hi, this is Kimberly Reuter, business advisor and supply chain expert, and welcome to my podcast, The Morning Mood. Today's topic falls under a little bit of leadership and life because these two kind of overlap, and it is about negativity in the workplace. I'm going to tell you a little story about how I first experienced this to a level that I actually had to address it. And it's gonna surprise you. So, I was actually working at Nordstrom, of all places. You would think that there would be no negativity in an organization like Nordstrom. We're selling shoes for Christ's sake. But there was a fair amount of it in specific organizations within the company. I would not classify Nordstrom as a negative-minded company, but within there were some organizations that were pretty mired down in negativity. And let me tell you how that looks so you can maybe identify it. At its most innocent level, negativity in the workplace is gossiping in the kitchen, bitching and moaning, complaining, and venting. And I would say when I've addressed this issue, which I've addressed it quite often, most of the time I get a comment which is, I was venting. But what's really happening is that they're bitching and they're being negative. And so at the most innocent, it's some moaning, groaning, bitching, gossiping over lunch. But at the extreme end of a negative workplace, it is very vicious and leads to extreme hopelessness and depression for the teams. And I know this because I've seen it. And I was working in an environment that had created a culture of negativity. It killed production, it killed happiness, it made it one of the most miserable places to work. And this is coming out of Amazon, which was, as I think I mentioned before, almost killed me. But Nordstrom was actually even more stressful because of all of this negativity. And again, not all of Nordstrom had this problem, specific departments. And how this was showing up for me on a daily basis and why it was killing me on a daily basis was for people on my team, people on other teams, just people coming into my office, inviting me to lunch, inviting me to coffee, and then just bitching and emotional dumping and just dumpster fire shit. Just stuff you don't want to deal with. And it became the focus of the conversation. How this team didn't perform, how that project was shit, how that guy got promoted and totally didn't deserve it. Well, how what a bad leader that person was. She takes too much time off. That and then of course, since we're working for a luxury retailer, fashion retailer, we get to add the extra special of can you believe what she's wearing? And I use the female because I'm a female and it's not specific to gender. Look what he's wearing. We had a few of those too. It was Nordstrom. So, and it ate up a lot of my time. And I think that's where I really started to resonate with me. And I started to register what was happening was the amount of time I was spending listening to this. And then what happened is that I was started to do it. And I started to complain and bitch and moan and just negative. Why am I here? What are you doing? He doesn't know what he's doing. She doesn't know what she's doing. Everybody's messed up. It's just bad. And so it became part of me and it became part of my work environment. And then what is really sad and what really got my attention was when all of this negativity suddenly. And I'm gonna take that back. It wasn't sudden. It happened over a period of time. It feels sudden when you realize it, but the truth is that it was probably always there. But what really got me is all of a sudden I realized that all of this negative shit that I was in for 10, 12 hours a day had seeped into my personal life, and I created my own personal culture of negativity. That's not good enough. That was terrible. Oh, this restaurant, who do they think they are? Negativity about myself, about how I looked, how things fit me, my face, my makeup, my hair. Always, oh my God, my hair. That goes back a long time ago. That's some childhood trauma shit about the hair. We'll get there one day, not now. But the negativity seeped into my personal life. And when I spoke about my work or I spoke about things in my life, it always had this negative tinge to it because I was surrounded by negativity in the office. So me, I did not accept this, and this was not going to continue because I actually did the math and estimated that I was spending 5 to 6 hours a day listening to negativity. And so I put a stop to it. And I went and I did some research and I figured out what this was all about and what we had created. And we had created a culture and had almost trauma bonded over this negativity. And that was the bond of the team and the organization, was that we had this shared experience and belief, but it was negative. So when you're building a team and an organization and your support system around you and and a network and in a corporation, by the way, we'll talk about that in building your network within the company you work with. Having a network outside of the company is helpful, but you got to build your inside network too. We'll talk about that another time. But anyway, so when you've created this network and this whole thing of negativity, it becomes who you are. And 6 to 8 hours of my day was being or 4 to 6 hours of my day was being eaten up with this negativity. It probably was 8 because I spent my commute bitching about it, so that was another 2 on both sides. So, but it had to be addressed because it was affecting productivity in the office because meetings were being eaten up with this, people were eating up my time bitching about it, and it had now seeped into my personal life where I hated everything. I hated my job. I hated everything. So I sat myself down and said, this has got to stop. And I did some research and I discovered that we created a culture. We had bonded over negativity, and that's what our bond was. And that's how the organization had bonded. That's how everybody had come together. And so when you're in an organization, you need those bonds. You need your network that was talking about your network, your organization. You need those bonds. You want to be bonded with people. You want to be bonded with your team. You want to have people that respect. But it can't be a negative bond. So this is what I did and this is what I had to do and it took me months. Number 1, I had to stop being negative. It started with the man in the mirror. I had to stop being negative. I had to stop participating in those conversations. I had to stop initiating those conversations. I had to stop being negative. And right on the heels of that, I had to put rules in place for my team about being negative. Now, this was for my immediate team, people who reported to me. We went out to the network a little bit later, people who I worked with. But immediately with my team, I put in a new rule, which was the no complaining rule. There's a book out there, I believe it's called The No Complaining Rule, about this. That's where I learned this. My office became a no complaining zone. You could not complain in my office. Absolutely not. You're not allowed to come in my office and just fucking dumpster fire, dump shit on me anymore. No more. I didn't actually say those exact words to my team, but I'm pretty sure they were written on my face when I said it. Now, if you are in leadership, you're like, well, how am I supposed to support my people if they can't come and talk to me? So you just shut your people off, Kim? Is that what you're telling me you did? No, that is not what I did. I sat them down individually because it wasn't that big of a team. I like small teams, by the way. I actually prefer to have small teams, get a lot more done with small teams. Um, and I set them down individually and I said, look, we have a problem with negativity in the organization. I don't know if you've noticed this, blah, blah, blah. And so we're going to institute a new rule. And the new rule is this: is that you are welcome to come into my office at any time to speak to me. My door is always open, but you have 5 minutes now. 2 of those minutes, you can tell me about the problem, and I'm going to time you. That's all you get is 2 minutes to tell me about the problem. And the next 3 minutes, you have to tell me about the solutions to those problems. And if you don't have solutions to those problems, you get 2 minutes. That's it. So you better figure out what your problem is and make it like crystal crisp, distilled, clear, because you're only getting 2. Obviously, this took a little time. I got a little cute little kitchen timer and put it on my desk. And they come in and I said it. And it was frustrating, and I remember I had one person who would consistently walk into my office, and I would set the timer, and he would be like, This isn't a timer conversation." And I'd be like, "Yes, it is. All conversations now are timer conversations." He did not like that timer, and he did not like that timer because it forced him to be clear about what the problem was and come up with solutions. So, it took about a month for it to really grab and for people to get it. And it took another month for there to start to be a shift in my team. And after the first month, when my team was getting it, I started rolling it out to other people that worked within. They weren't bitching as much, other people. It was really just this team. By the way, I just inherited the team. So I've inherited this culture. So I was rolling it out to other people who were chronic negative offenders. And so the first month took a while to get it. In month 2, the magic started to happen. And there started to be a shift in the team. And they were more positive. They were more upbeat. And the crazy thing is almost like their faces changed. Like they weren't all pinched and pissed off all the time. And they were bright and open and happy. And I started to hear little tinkles of giggles and laughing. And at month 3, it's like it never happened. It was a totally different organization. No longer needed the timer, no longer needed the sign on the wall that said no complaining zone, no longer had to remind people. It stuck and it was beautiful. And let me tell you, the most beautiful part of transitioning an organization from a negative organization to a positive organization. In the negative, as you heard me say at the beginning of this podcast, everyone was focused on what did not work, what would not work, what could not work, and how everybody had done everything wrong. That was the focus of every conversation. There was zero energy, effort, conversation, anything, not even an ounce of energy focused on a solution, a positive outcome. There was no focus on this. We only focused on the problem, the shit show, the flying monkeys, and how everybody else was an absolute, complete, total idiot. That was it. That was the whole mentality of the organization. Nothing got fixed. Nothing moved forward. Everything was a pain in the ass. People were hopeless. And quite frankly, they were depressed. When we cut out the negativity, and here's another thing, if you've ever had to deal with addiction, a lot of times what you have to do when you're dealing with addiction, and negativity is an addiction, is you have to substitute something that's not maybe as bad as the thing that you were addicted to. You kind of have to slowly take yourself off this. So anytime you're dealing with an addiction, and negativity is an addiction, we had to substitute it with something, right? So I couldn't just say, "Hey, no more negative. I don't want to hear the shit anymore." Because if I did that, then my team wouldn't come to me at all. But what we substituted the negativity with was 3 possible solutions. They don't even have to be good ones. They just have to be something. Okay. And so that shift, as we slowly shifted people into focusing on the positive and focusing on providing a solution to the problem, well, all of a sudden, everything got easier. Projects ran faster, smoother, quality was better, people were happy. They were focused on the positive, they were focused on a solution, and they were focused on making it better. And the best part is that 95% of the time, it was their idea to make it better anyway. They're the one that came up with the solution. They're the one who actually had the answer the whole time, but they couldn't see it. They couldn't believe in it. They couldn't feel it. So when you remove the negativity, you squash it, you kill it, you nip it in the bud, you torch it, you set it on fire, whatever you do with it, whatever graphic you need to help you understand that. When you move away from that, when you kill it, the world opens. We're focusing on solutions. All of those employees that you had that were spending 6, 8, 10 hours a day focusing on why everything was bad and wrong and negative and just hopelessness are now focused all of that energy and all of that brain power on getting a solution, finding an answer. And that is beautiful. But you have to train your mind first, and then you have to train theirs. And you have to positively reinforce it. And you have to laugh sometimes when they go over the 2 minutes, because sometimes that's hard. But you got to do the 2 minutes. And every conversation's a 2-minute conversation, honey. I'm sorry, boo. I know you were upset about that. You're probably still a little upset about that. But every conversation's a 2-minute conversation. Negativity in the workplace, it will kill an organization faster than anything. Get rid of it, no complaining. 2 minutes on the problem, 3 minutes on the solution. That's the magic formula. That is all I have for you today. Thank you for being here with me and supporting me with this podcast. I've been getting a lot of amazing feedback. We've got a lot of guests coming up. We're early days, we're figuring it out, but I got plans for you, baby. So stick with me, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.